Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome to Upcoming Wargames, the February 2024 edition. And have we got a jam-packed edition today? There is a ton of stuff to look at. And if you're not familiar with this episode, in this episode we take a look at upcoming tabletop wargames in various states of production from wargaming companies across the planet. We're going to cover 4 different categories: newly released games that kind of slipped by the radar, crowdfunding games that are in crowdfunding currently. Then we have kind of last call games where you get the last opportunity to get that pre-order discount. And then lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about some games that are just new to me and newly announced games. And then we also have, as usual, we'll talk a little bit about some sales that are going on at various companies around the planet as well. As usual, this episode is sponsored by Noble Knight Games. Noble Knight Games is a retailer located in Wisconsin, but they are much bigger than their Wisconsin location because they ship games overseas into most international locations at very aggressive and competitive prices. They have wargaming supplies, miniature supplies, used and new wargames, and that's also one of the things I think really distinguishes them in the field is the quality of their used games. They're meticulously cataloged and recorded so that you know when you get a game stated at a certain level, it's going to be at that level or better. I've had nothing but great results with ordering from them. And as also usual, we are going to do a special $50 gift certificate giveaway to Noble Knight Games at the end of this episode. Be sure to check that out if you'd like to win a $50 gift, if you'd like to try to win a $50 gift certificate from Noble Knight Games. And a quick reminder that Shelf Clutter is the YouTube channel that's kind of our collaborative partner in this. They do a weekly update on crowdfunding games, which often includes quick looks at war games. So if you want to keep up to the week with crowdfunding initiatives, that's the channel to look at, and they are listed down below in the links. Let's jump in and get started by taking a look at our newly released modules. The first of which we'll look at is Twilight of the Reich by Multi-Man Publishing. This is the latest and newest advanced squad leader module, and this covers 17 scenarios in the very late stages of the war. One of the cool things I thought about it here, it's hard. They don't actually have so many pictures up on the website, but if we blow up the back of the box like this, there are 49 overlays in the map. And so it includes things like debris rules and then rail yards as a new terrain feature. So it looks pretty cool for Advanced Squad Leader fans. I'm on the very beginning stages of my Advanced Squad Leader journey. The starter kit and then Beyond Valor are the ones that I've picked up to hope to explore this year. But for people that have all of the advanced squad leaders or just are curious about this particular topic, this particular element of tactical combat, this one looks pretty good. Twilight of the Reich from Multi-Man Publishing, brand new and newly released and available on their website. Newly released game number 2 comes from Decision Games. This was Guilty Pleasure and had a little bit of holiday money left over from gifts and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I went for it. Axis Empires Ultimate Edition from Decision Games. This is a massive box that includes all 4 modules of their Axis Empires system here. So it's got Totaler Krieg, which is the West Front, the European World War II theater. Then Daisenso, which is the Japanese, the Asian sphere. Then we have Schiffskrieg, which adds an air and naval component to the game. And you can play Europe, or you can play the Pacific Theater, or you can combine them all together into one massive World War II recreation. The thing that, well, there were actually 2 things that sold it to me. The thing that sold it to me here was their Dice of Decision module, which creates a lot of random scenarios for it. Let's jump in actually and take a look on their website here a little bit at some of the images and things like that. These are a little bit small, but bear with me. So just kind of looking. Here's Japan again. We can see grand strategic scale because Japan itself is what, about 10 hexes or so, 12 hexes. We get Europe and things like that. But yeah, the thing that decided it for me was the Dice of Decision module, which is a random scenario kind of a random scenario-ish generator that allows you to explore a lot of hypothetical World War II situations. And when you toss in grand strategic game with hypothetical situations, it was like, yeah, okay, you got me. So this one now is on, hopefully it doesn't stick on the shelf of shame here, but I'm really looking forward to digging into this one. Axis Empires, the Ultimate Edition from Decision Games. Oh yeah, the second thing just to mention, this game was available through a website in Atlanta and it had a dinged corner. So that it was actually on a fairly reasonable discount for just a minor ding there. So that was kind of the convincing factor. I'm like, I can't pay full price for it, but wait, there's a dinged corner. Now I can rationalize buying it. So yeah, this one goes in the collection. Anybody else out there get this one? I'm really curious to see if people have tried it and got it to the table yet too. Third game up in the newly released category, Stalingrad Roads from Nuts Publishing. This is kind of the third game in the mini-series, right? So we got Liberty Roads, which covers the kind of the D-Day into the drive into Germany in World War II, and then Victory Roads, which covers the kind of East Front campaign on a larger scale. And then Stalingrad Roads here is the third game. This is the first one by Nuts Publishing. It brings their publication and their publication quality to the series. The other previous two were done by Hexasim. So this is the English version of here, and check out these counters and stuff. The Rhodes series really is highly playable operational level games that are designed, I think, for both accessibility and playability, kind of mid-level complexity games. And these counters just look fantastic with lots of kind of just fun little mechanics to kind of enhance the gameplay here. Take a look at the map and things. It's really looking good. Love the counters here. Very, very good. What's in the box? We got a single-sided map. Looks like two counter sheets here. Player aids, rule book, and then dice. So available now from Nuts Publishing, Liberty Roads, the third in the Roads series and the first one done by Nuts Publishing. Our fourth and final newly released game is Winter's Victory from New England Simulations, which is the first of two games we're going to take a look at that cover the Battle of Eylau in 1807, Napoleon's forces against the Prussians and Russians. This is a rather massive look at this game. If we take a look at some of the components here, the map here is 4 25.5-inch by 33-inch maps butted together. So a rather large footprint. And again, a good portion of the battle was fought under blizzard conditions. So we've got a nice snowy landscape here to look at. If we go back a little bit here, we can take a look at the counters. I really like the artistic design on these, just really beautiful counters and things. It's battalion level simulation of this battle. Look at some of the components. Here is a fatigue display. So really nice and I think well executed artistic vision on this one. I want to show you the rule book too, because this is definitely a 2 feet in kind of dive with this one. There is a rather hefty rule set here and it goes on. It's about 40 pages, lots of text, thick text. So I think this is definitely one that's going to be an extensive and intricate look at the battle here. It goes on for quite a while there. And then if we take a look at the playbook here too, there's also some optional rules and some advanced rules in here too. One of which is a whole rule system that covers weather, again, covering kind of look at the winter battle conditions here too. And then the scenarios that are in here as well. A big game from New England Simulations. I'm not too familiar again with their work, but this looks like it's, if the production quality is the same in line with that artistic value, this looks like a really interesting look at the Battle of Eylau here. It does have, I will say, a hefty price to it as well. I think it's $190 is the price on this one here. So yeah, it's definitely, it is $190. It's discounted down from $200. That is, again, so you want to definitely make sure this one's for you before you jump in on that one. Winter's Victory from New England Simulations. Let's shift over into our crowdfunding games now. This one is just newly started on crowdfunding, Aces of Aces Powerhouse Series. And this is a World War I dogfighting game that uses 2 books with a series of, you're going to basically each pick a maneuver, 2-player game. I don't think it works at all solitaire. I might be mistaken there, but I think its essence is this dogfight, plane versus plane, World War I, where you're going to pick a maneuver, then your opponent picks a maneuver, and then based on what maneuvers you pick, you go to a different page in the book and you see the result of those maneuvers, and then you lather, rinse, repeat until one of you shoots the other one down. 1,650 backers. It's almost got $100,000 funded, 18 days to go. So plenty of time to jump in on this one. This is a remake of a game that I have long wanted to try, which is Aces of Aces here. Looking now on the Board Game Geek page back from 1980. And these games have been so hard to get and out of print and everything like that. And we can see here, if I blow this image up kind of behind me here, you know, we've got the 2 pages of the book and down below in the lower part, you've got all the maneuvers. But this was the old black and white artwork for this. So this Powerhouse series takes that concept here. And if I kind of jump up here into the movie a little bit right here, I'm going to make this large screen so we can see this. You can kind of see as this goes by, you know, here's the maneuvers you're picking from and it gives you the page numbers, but all of the artwork has been reimagined and re-envisioned and things. This looks like it's going to be a really fun, easy to play World War I dogfighting game that you can really kind of introduce and bring almost anybody into right away. Games play in under 20 minutes. And again, I think the heart of this, right, is that 2-player game, but this artwork just really, really good. So very tempting here. Aces of Aces Powerhouse Series, a reimagining of the old classic Aces of Aces World War I dogfighting game. Available on Kickstarter now. There's a link down below too. Our second game currently in crowdfunding, Louisbourg 1758, a battle between the French and the British in the French and Indian War, plays in an hour. This one looks very accessible. It's a block-based, card-assisted two-player game. And I think we'll take a look at the rules. There is a mention of some modifications for solitaire play, but I think the heart of this game really comes down to the two-player version, because you're going to have blocks. You really won't be able to see your opponent's blocks, and there's card-assisted, which of course feels like it's going to be something that you're going to be best utilized in the two-player mode. And we can see a point-to-point game here, so we've got kind of a quick look at the map here, moving along and things like that. Game units here, we get a look at the blocks and stuff, and then here we get a nice little picture of the cards. This one is fully founded. Only 7 days left to go as I am making this video, so don't dally if you think you might want this one. And we can take a look right here at the rules. This just makes me think it's quite accessible in this regard, because it's only really 8 pages here before you start to get into some strategy notes and things like that. Yeah, so 8 pages, then we get some notes for solitaire play, and then some strategy and history down here. So very modest rule set for this war game that's going to play under an hour and cover the siege of Louisbourg in the French and Indian War. Looks very interesting. I'll put a link down below. Now we're going to shift into our last call imminent release category. I've got 3 games that are in this category right now that I've talked about rather extensively on previous upcoming War Games episodes. So I'm just going to mention them briefly here in case you want reminders that they're in their last stages. Coalitions from Phalanx Games is the Napoleonic diplomatic game for 1 to 6 players. This available late pledge kind of opportunity to get this one. Imminent shipping kind of status within the next couple of months or so. Battle of Khalkhin-Gol, I just did a series on this one on the channel. Full after action report playthrough and an overview of gameplay from Princeps Games. This covers the border skirmish between Russia and Japan in 1939 at the dawn of World War II. That is also in its late pledge state. And then Storm of Steel just went to Compass Games Final Call Quickstarter, a Kickstarter thing. I've talked about this one rather extensively on upcoming War Games before. You get to command a squadron of Stukas over a campaign in World War II. So 3 fun games in their last stages. I've talked about them before. Links are down below if you want to go check out more on those. Now let's drift over to some games that are in their last call state that I haven't talked about that much. Back to Eylau, another extensive production about the Battle of Eylau 1807. This one from Sound of Drums Games, and this is volume 1 in their new Battles of Napoleon series. They did send along an advanced copy of this game, and I've got an extensive first look video up on the channel of this one. Really nice production values. Not quite the monster game or the levels of intricacy and the complexity of the New England Simulations one, so it kind of depends on what you'd be looking for in a game like this. But this one, very high production values. We can kind of scan through this here a little bit. Again, capturing that winter essence of battle here. Really nice counter set, great player aids. Rules are, I think, fairly digestible for a Napoleonic game. I think it's going to be easy to get to the table with a bunch of scenarios to play in here as well. This one is in late pledge. I think it's shipping. The last I heard were the games were on the ships coming to both Europe and the United States. So should be shipping soon. So this would be, again, that last chance to get that pre-order discount for Eylau 1807. Looks like a really fun game system. I've got it all clipped and I've got the rules read, so I'm looking forward to getting it to the table as soon as I get a Most Fearful Sacrifice off my table now. Not that I'm in a rush to get it off, but that I think will be the next one I want to play. Next up takes us to Revolution Games, Sedgwick Attacks, Volume 10 in their American Civil War series. Uses the blind swords system, a chit pull system for action. It's really fun American Civil War system. This one, Sedgwick Attacks, is both in kind of the imminent release, newly released category, because it lists now on their website that it is shipping now, and yet it still has their kind of release price that's $15 off the full price. So if you still want that discount, I think it's kind of the last opportunity to get that. This one again covers the Battle of Salem Church, the second bloodiest day in American Civil War history, according to the back of the box here. But the chit pull system and the action and the kind of the attention to detail that Revolution Games puts into their games and publications really makes this an attractive series. And it is growing yet still now with Volume 10, Sedgwick Attacks, newly released from Revolution Games. Continuing on with crowdfunding, last call. As I'm making this, there's 19 hours left to go in this Kickstarter game. So if you're watching this video shortly after release, you want to jump on this. I don't know if there will be a late pledge system for this, but it's way over its $2,000 target campaign there for funding. 454 backers. Pocket Air War Definitive Edition. So this looks like an upgraded edition of the earlier Air War type of combat. And it gets back, we looked at Aces of Aces before in terms of World War I dogfighting. This looks like kind of World War II plane-to-plane combat. And looking over my shoulder here, it looks like it's kind of played out just right on a tabletop here, like no hexes or anything like that. It does have a full solitaire mode, so 1 to 8 players. It looks like it's kind of dogfighting game between planes. We've got Luftwaffe, U.S. Air Force here, RAF, Regia Aeronautica. Each one has these cardboard dashboards. It looks like you're going to be controlling the information for your planes. But then if we look down here, we get cardboard turning templates. So it looks like it's going to have kind of a miniatures feel to it. I'm curious if people have played this one before because it looks like a fairly intriguing game. Firing templates, wooden energy tokens. There's an altitude element in here. So it looks like it's taken that earlier version of the game and really kind of enhanced it with better graphics and some updated rules and things as well. And then a whole little explanation here on how solo and cooperative mode works with a realistic AI opponent and an adaptive AI system. So very curious if people have played the earlier edition or know more about this one, but it looks pretty cool. And if you do want to jump on the Kickstarter, by all means, this is the time to do it here because it is getting hours short as this video will come out. So Pocket Air War Definitive Edition from WBS Games. Next up in our last call, imminent release, last chance to get on the late pledge train kind of opportunity is Bonaparte's Eastern Empire from Formsquare Games. Now, this is a game I just found out about less than 24 hours ago. It's Formsquare Games' first foray into wargaming. It's available on late pledge, and according to the designer, it's going to be shipping within about a month or so. So last opportunity to get onto the late pledge train for this one. This covers Napoleon's campaigns in Egypt and the surrounding areas in 1798. So, going back to Napoleon in this time. I'm going to read the overview a little bit because this kind of gives a good idea on what the gameplay is focusing on. So the players must take the role of theater commanders. There is a commander glory feature in this game, which is working to build up the reputation of the commanders that you're controlling. You're going to be controlling either the French invasion force or the allied forces of Mamluk, Ottoman, and British forces. The French player has to sail from France across the Mediterranean, avoiding Nelson and the British Navy while stopping at Malta if they can. Then they want to conquer all of Egypt and parts of Syria, while escorting the savants to the valleys of kings. And the Allied forces are trying to prevent that with a goal of recapturing Cairo and Alexandria with either Ottoman or British forces. A lot of fun things in this one too in terms of mechanics. It's an area movement mechanic game down here, but if we look at the components, we've got French position and glory commander markers, plus invasion fleet markers, French infantry, cavalry are counters here, French dummy and real fleet markers. I don't see any really extensive build out for solitaire play, and with dummy and real fleet markers, it makes me think this is going to shine best as a 2-player game. So we got Mamluk position and glory commander markers, so we can see a lot of stuff to kind of components and elements of the game here. And if we take a look at the latest rule book here, let me pop back up to the top here so we can take a look at it here. It's a rather extensive rulebook with a lot of mechanics involved here. One of the things I wanted to call out, if we come down to page, I think it's 22 here, yes, is this event clock system. So this is kind of the timing mechanism for the series, for the game. Feels like a really unique mechanic that has historical events, but you're not quite sure which order they're going to happen. So it's a way of kind of keeping the gameplay within its historical boundaries, but not over dictating in a linear fashion the events and the things that happen historically. Now, again, I haven't played this, so I'm not quite sure how it worked out, but as I'm reading it, it sounds like, wow, that sounds like a really cool idea. And the rules are, there's a hefty rule book here. This is up to 30-something pages. A lot of artwork and things like that in here too. We got combat. I saw sieges in here. And sieges we've got. If we go down through here, that's quite a little bit. Siege of Malta. So lots of things going on. And then kind of some informational rules about how to handle some of the events that come up in that event track as well. Uprisings can happen. The Mamluks can change sides and things. So this one looks a very interesting game. We'll be getting a look at this one. So I'll be doing a deep dive first look video at this one at some point in the next couple of months or so. And again, if you like the idea of our wargaming companies growing up and built, more wargaming companies. It's always nice if you feel inclined to like this one to support games as they're starting off with their first game in the wargaming sphere. So Bonaparte's Eastern Empire from Form Square Games. So by the time I got around to making the February edition of this game, it shifted from, I think, imminent release to release, and the pre-order discount is gone. So it really probably should be in that newly released category. But we want to talk about it anyway because I haven't mentioned it before, and it is newly released. Rommel's War from Worthington Games. Now, this game covers the war in North Africa from March 1941 to January 1942. It's hard as a two-player block-based game, and as we kind of look down here through the components, this looks to me like somewhat of an area movement format, although I'm not quite exactly sure how it's going to help with the way the blocks are positioned here. But it's 8 pages of rules, again, playable in under an hour. So very quick playing game. Here's the sequence of play. Receive reinforcements and place at base. Draw 1 initiative card, make 2 moves and resolve combat. End phase, recovery, and resolve supply. And if we take a look here at the rules, we can see indeed they are relatively straightforward. Counters have a strength value and a speed value. Unit icon that you're looking at, and block-based, you're going to be hiding your counters from your opponent. But it does mention down here in the bottom of the rules a solitaire option here. Yeah, solitaire. So it's designed as a 2-player game. However, to learn the game or by preference for solitaire play, a solo rule sheet has been provided. So it adds in kind of a die roll for Fog of War and then mentions playing with the counters playing for both sides. So probably best experienced as a 2-player game, but certainly looks like it's playable as a solitaire game. But again, yeah, 8 pages of rules, and even a page and a half of those are designer's notes. So Rommel's War looks like a very accessible kind of intense wargaming night to kind of get a game in real fast, or maybe you could use it to introduce someone to wargaming. Looks really kind of straightforward and fun. Rommel's War from Worthington's Games. Let's switch over now to some Compass games that are in that imminent release, newly released, but still at their pre-order discounts. This one is the first one we'll look at, which is World War II Campaigns 1940, 1941, and 1942. 3 games in the box. So this goes back to the Game Designers Workshop's old Series 120 games, which were games that had 120 counters or less, designed to be playable in 2 hours or less. And you get 3 in the box here. And they are, let me just take a look down below. The first one is the Battle of France in the Low Countries, 1940, Operation Barbarossa, 1941, and then the Japanese campaign against Malaya, Java, and the initial attack in the Philippines in 1942. And if we look at each one has its own map with its back of the box, but here is our 1940 map. And again, designed to be quick playing, easy, accessible. These seem like these would be great games if you have, limited amount of time to play in an evening, want to get in a quick game of something, 1941. And I understand all of these games have been updated from their original versions with more, modern counters and better maps and things like that. Very curious on the gameplay for the 1942 scenarios. It's got a lot of some ocean element in there, and to capture that in 120 counters is rather interesting. Here we look at the counters. So very kind of simple, old school, but yet elegant in terms of that and kind of the redesign. So there we have it. World War II Campaigns, 3 for the price of 1. And it's still available now at its pre-order discount, but I imagine that's going to change relatively soon. So available on the Compass Games website. Next up in our imminent release, last chance to get the pre-order discount, is Burning Banners, also from Compass Games. Now, this is a fantasy war game. Okay, and if we look at it here, I went from not knowing anything about this game about a month or so ago to instant backing on this one after I kind of watched some of the videos and looked at some of the information on this here too. But it's a 2 to 6 player game. It's a fantasy combat, so it involves magic and heroes. If you want to add those in as the advanced game, we've got 4 hand-drawn maps, 6 different kind of factions, if you would, that all have their own unique characteristics. It blew through its stretch goals, its funding goals, and everything like that. So it's fully funded. Campaign book is in here, coin counters, rounded counters. We've got 240 kind of hand-drawn 1-inch counters. Production values look really, really good on this one. Here are the maps here looking behind us too. And if we kind of jump here and take a look at the rule book, we can see really nice layout. Just all the things you're talking about with the basic game here. So it's divided up into 2. The basic game the rules go for 32 pages here. So, and it's ruled as low complexity to medium complexity. The rules again here, they're pretty spread out. It's definitely low in terms of a war game, low complexity if it's that. but it looks like it's going to be a really fun game. I like fantasy. I like just fantasy in general, sci-fi in general, but the idea of a war game that gets at this level of detail in a fantasy setting to me just is really, really appealing here. And then we get to the advanced game, and it says the advanced games is where you add in heroes, monsters, spells, blessings, and treasures. So this one does look like it's shipping relatively soon. Looks like it's a ton of fun. Production values. I don't know how many scenarios there are. I imagine there are a lot. And it says moderate, I think, for solitaire play. So lots to like about this one. It kind of caught me off guard. I hadn't seen it. I might have discounted it because of the box, perhaps. I thought, oh, maybe it's not a war game or it's not something I would like. But a war game fantasy background type of experience looks really fun. Burning Banners, it's imminently shipping as well, and still available, however, on that pre-order price on Compass Games site. Still with Compass Games, now we come to Atlantic Sentinels, also in that last chance to get the pre-order discount before the game goes up to its full price. This is North Atlantic Convoy Escort 1942 to 1943, designed by Gregory M. Smith, who is the designer also of The Hunters and the Hunted. So this is a fully solitaire game in the same vein as The Hunters, except you're on the other side. You're going to be in charge of leading convoys across the Atlantic Ocean safely while U-boats are trying to hunt you down and blow up all your freighters and knock out your destroyers and things like that. So you're trying to successfully escort the convoy across and do as much damage to the U-boats as possible. Much like The Hunters, which had missions that played out in the course of 15 minutes to half an hour, and then an entire campaign that connects all of the missions together. Same type of model here. Individual convoy is going to be 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour or so, and then an entire campaign over the course of the war, 6 to 8 hours, as your convoys get upgrades and run into different circumstances. I think there's 10 different types of convoy groups you can have that are involved in it here. If we look at the counters and things like that and kind of zoom in a little bit closer, we got hedgehogs for anti-submarine warfare. We've got our escorts, and there's a tactical display for combat, so it looks a little bit more elaborate than was in The Hunters in that regard. We've got all our U-boats here. We've got some air damage markers, damage report and kinds of things. And then here, if we look at this, we can see this is that convoy track. You're going to be going through different points along the way, and then random events will kind of happen with historical kind of backing behind them that leads you to have to react to either U-boat attacks, or maybe it's a completely quiet zone or something like that. This one looks like a lot of fun. It also mentions on the page here that you can integrate this with The Hunters. And I have no idea how that would work, because it seems like to me, it'd be like two completely different games. But you can integrate the two somehow and work them in together. I don't know how that's going to work, but very curious on this one. Atlantic Sentinels, North Atlantic Convoy Escorts, 1942 to 1943. Again, last chance to get that pre-order discount from Compass Games. Continuing on with our imminent release, last chance to get the pre-order discounts, we go to Multiman Publishing for two of their games. The first one, The Greatest Day, Utah Beach. This is Volume 2 in their Grand Tactical Series look at the battles from Normandy. The first was Sword, Juno, and Gold Beaches. The third, I assume, will be Omaha Beach. This one covers Utah Beach and the action behind it. Tons of scenarios. This is a monster game with a monster price. Lots of gameplay, and you get a ton of stuff in the box with it. Here is one of our maps here, so covering the beaches and then the area behind it. We look through here, we take a look at some of the detail. I really like these maps for capturing kind of the feel of France in 1944 here. A lot of different maps and elements. This looks really cool. And then we go in and we take a look here. We've got the terrain effects chart, turn record chart. I think 15 or 16 counter sheets at 5/8 of an inch. So just massive game here. Here are some of the counters now. Wow, lots of stuff. I can imagine. I mean, again, one of these games, it's got a hefty price tag, right? If we look at it, it's not cheap for sure, but then what you get inside the box is, a boatload of scenarios and tons of gameplay. So in terms of value, it's not that far off the track if you kind of think about all the gameplay that would be in here, but lots to dig into in this Grand Tactical Series. And again, Grand Tactical, like each turn is 2 hours. And it is at that tactical level, really digging behind an epic look at the Utah Beach and the battles behind it. So Greatest Day, Utah Beach from Multiman Publishing. We're not done yet, however. The Devil's Cauldron, Operation Market Garden from Multiman Publishing. Another game that's on its last chance to get the pre-order discount, which is a substantial discount over its full price here. This game is one of two games, and again, it kind of almost, I'm not sure if it's at the Grand Tactical series, but it is a very tactical level look at the campaign of Operation Market Garden. There are two games that cover it, The Devil's Cauldron, and if we click back here, we can see Where Eagles Dare, which covers the southern half of Market Garden, and they are fully linkable. Unfortunately, Eagles Dare is sold out, so you'd have to be, if you don't have that one yet, you'd have to be satisfied with just The Devil's Cauldron with its 11 counter sheets and 50-hour campaign, tons of scenarios. The counters are 5/8 of an inch. Just it looks like a massive look at the northern half of the Operation Market Garden. Tons of fun in the box. I mean, a hefty price again. It's definitely something you want to think twice about before you jump in and get this one. But, in terms of gameplay that's inside and the scope and scale of it, I think there's 4 maps and 3 map extensions involved. So just a monster game looking at the northern half of the Battle of Market Garden. It would be a dream to kind of link these two up and play them both. But The Devil's Cauldron from Multi-Man Publishing, last chance to get their pre-order discount on that one, as I think shipping is imminent on both this one and Utah Beach Grand Tactical Series. Our last game in the last call part of it, looking for pre-order discounts kind of thing. Rifles in the Numb from Tiny Battle Publishing. Now, Tiny Battle Publishing, if you're not familiar with them, publishes small footprint games with minimal counter sets that try to get a lot of gameplay into a small box. Rifles in the Numb is a solitaire game by Kotaro Zankani that looks at combat in Vietnam. Now, it's got 105 counters, 3 distinct maps, as we can see here, and it doesn't use hexes. I'm not quite sure how all of this works, and it looks like each counter is an individual soldier. But solitaire game, we can see support fire, you can see buildings, different elements in here, hidden units, but looks like it's going to be a really interesting tactical game. You've got 3 maps, 12 missions in a campaign, army sheets for U.S. Marines, Army, North Vietnamese, and Viet Cong, 3 distinct maps depicting jungles, VC tunnel complexes, and cityscapes. Campaign involved as well. So very curious about this one. It looks like an intriguing system. I'm not familiar with the first game or the other games in this series, but solitaire, individual combat, quick playing with a relatively small footprint and a small counter set. Sounds intriguing to me. So if you're interested, you can check it out from Tiny Battle Publishing. And again, this one looks like it is, it says shipping in late February, and this is late February, so you better hop on it if you want this one. So Rifles in the Numb from Tiny Battle Publishing. That brings us to the end of the imminent release category. Now we're going to go into kind of upcoming, newly announced, new to me kind of games. So not a sense of urgency to get your pre-orders in or get your orders in for these, but I just want to touch on a few of these as we kind of wrap up this episode. The first one, we're going to go to VUCA Simulations for Traces of Hubris. Now, this is designed by Tetsuya Nakamura, and we'll talk a little bit about him in a moment. But if you've watched the channel, you know that I'm a big fan of VUCA Simulations. The production quality that they put into their games is absolutely astounding. Traces of Hubris, if you can... The Trace's name here, and Tetsuya Nakamura, the same designer in that same series name, it looks like it's the brother game to Traces of War, which you did an after-action report on the channel. Put a link down below to that. Absolutely felt like it was such a playable, fun game, and combine that with the production elements from VUCA Simulations, it's a real winner. Traces of Hubris, I'm assuming, uses that same system element to it, except it takes a look at the German Case Blue summer offensive in southern Russia in the second half of 1942. Again, high quality production values. Looks like it's using the same kind of system. Now, in Traces of War, the Russians are on the offensive, so now the Germans get a chance to get revenge here with Traces of Hubris. But Traces of War was just such a fun game. A moderate rule set, moderate counter set, very playable, easy to understand, easy to get to the table with 2 scenarios of varying length. If Traces of Hubris follows that footprint, that blueprint for success, I think this is going to be a really playable, accessible, tableable war game that follows in that same theme. And I'm a big fan of Tetsuya Nakamura's work in Traces of War, so very much looking forward to Traces of Hubris. This one looks like it's going to be really solid. Our second newly announced kind of on the distant horizon that caught my attention here is a Compass Games game called Lightning Strikes, the World Wars of the 20th Century. Now, this one, I've not seen one like this, right? But get this, in the full campaign game, players create a new global history by managing their countries from the outbreak of war in 1914 through 1954. So you're going to be fighting through multiple world wars. Gameplay turns are 6 months, unless you're in peacetime, in which case a gameplay turn is 2 years. Check out this map here. I'll blow this up so we can take a look at it. It's this I think is for a scenario, perhaps, actually. Let's take a look at the larger map here. Here we go. This is the global map. So it's area movement. You can play of one of 5 different powers, like Commonwealth, US, Japan, Germany, and then I think Russia is the other one, is the 5th one there too. Look at this map, though. It's got economy. I mean, it's a high complexity game, right? I think the basic game is listed at like a 6, and the standard game is listed at an 8, but you're going to be managing politics, economics, just the alternative history that this can spawn. I mean, for someone I've mentioned it before, just who likes this kind of hypothetical element and hypothetical edge, this map and the ability to play from 1914 all the way through to 1954. Are you kidding me? If we take a look at some of the counter sets here, I mean, this looks like it's going to be just a massive game. I mean, these are, looks like, this must be the German counters here that we're looking at. Yeah, we've got Navy elements, we've got ships and things like that. Is that radiation here that can happen? Looks like perhaps. I'm not sure what that's, if it does signify radiation. Here we got French counters. Oh man, it's just all kinds of stuff. Yep, 14th Army, 5th Army. This must be the US counter set here. I mean, it's such a cool concept, right? Except it immediately brings to mind lots of questions. Like, how is it going to work? Here's a track here, Japanese track. Production assets, production multiple, progressive, representative, authoritarian, totalitarian. So shifts of the political element of Japan as well. So it's got, a deep political model, it looks like. If we look here, what do we see on this one? Weather, player order, air units, new weapons development track, new weapons chart. I mean, this is super ambitious, right? And if they can pull it off and it works and it's a playable game, it could be absolutely, I just think, really fantastic. So I'm really interested to seeing how this one follows along. Lightning Strikes, the World Wars of the 20th Century from Compass Games. Somewhere off in the future, but it did catch my attention and it really riveted my eyes to it as I saw it. Sticking with Compass Games for another newly announced game that caught my attention and going in a completely different level. We're going tactical World War II. Eastern Front Tank Leader. Now, I don't know a lot about this one. It looks like it's built off the previous games of Western Front Tank Leader and Desert Steel, but a complete kind of re-envisioning and updating of that game. So it says a classic reborn. So it's taken those 2 games, brought it to the East Front, and kind of updated it and updated the gameplay and graphics as well. As I look at the unit force pool here in particular, I kind of get flashbacks to like Panzerblitz and things like that. It looks like that level of tactical game here, but just a really neat looking counter set. That looks absolutely gorgeous. Maps again, tactical scale here in terms of what we're looking at, and then Tank Leader, the back of the box. This one did, here's Russian units too, did very quickly capture my attention here. It looks pretty interesting. Again, that whole Panzerblitz vibe that I'm getting from this one is an updated version of that. Is that kind of its spiritual descendant here? Or is it the spiritual descendant of that game would be a better way to word that. But yeah, Eastern Front Tank Leader. I'm going to be interested to follow this one along. It did capture my attention, so I thought it would mention it as we wind up this episode. And that brings us to the end of our look at new games, but I did want to mention a couple of sales that are going on now that I think people might be interested in. First up is one by War Diary magazine. Specifically, it's only one game, but it's a game we looked at on the channel, Blade and Bow, designed by Mike Nagel, which covers the 4 classic battles of ancient times, Marathon, Thermopylae, Plataea, and Mycale. This is a game with a very unique movement and facing system and combat system. You get 4 individual maps from it, and the game is normally $60, but it's 50% off on a holiday special, and it's still running. I don't know how much longer that's going to run. Put a link down to the full video, the first look video down below, but it seemed like a really good opportunity to get a good game at an incredibly good price. So I'll put a link to Blade and Bow down there in case people are interested in that one and getting it at 50% off. Next up is a sale by Osprey Games. They have a lot of their games on sale 30 to 40% off. Including some of the ones that are well known. For example, Undaunted Stalingrad is 30% off. 30% off. So that's a pretty good deal. So a number of their war games that might catch your idea. I saw here the newly released General Orders as well, $24.50. So that one, it looks like it's 30% off as well. All of the Undaunted games, Battle of Britain, North Africa, Normandy Reinforcements, all look like they're 30% off as well. And then a rather extensive a number of their other games that I'm not familiar with, that I haven't heard too much about, are on sale as well, including some of their role-playing games. This sale goes only until, February 25th, midnight GMT time. So I'm making this on the 23rd. So if you want to hop on some of those sale prices, don't dally. Off we go to get those discounts. Last but not least in our sale category, and also by way of a short introduction, I want to talk a little bit about Wargame Design Studio. So if you're not familiar with them, these are PC-based games, but they're Hex Encounters, traditional war games built up in a PC environment. Many of them built off the original designs and inspiration of John Tiller, who is a famous war game designer in this space. Now, I want to mention them too. Not only, if you're not familiar with them, they have tons of games. And if we look down here, for example, in the Panzer Campaign series, we see they have a lot of games. Many of these are absolutely massive with many, many scenarios. And we can kind of just take a quick look here at Shelf 44. If we blow up one of the images, we can see very traditional Hex Encounters war games, but based on the PC. Lots of content in each one of these and thoroughly researched. Just really outstanding games, I think, from what I've heard from people saying. I'm going to be looking at them for the first time in the upcoming months. Shelf 44 will be one of the ones that I'm looking at. But I want to mention under the sales category, because they've started a new thing here in that they have a game of the week. And the game of the week goes on like a 25% discount only for that week. So this week, if we look at it, it is Musket and Pike 7 Years War. Last week was from February 12th. This is a brand new thing that they're starting, was putting a game on discount for each week. Each one has been responsive. I can't see which one. Danube Front 85 was the game that was on sale for their modern campaign series. But again, if we look at their game series here, they have a ton of series covering just a massive amount of the world's conflict simulations here. So if you're not familiar with them, it can be worth a look. And then just calling attention for people that are familiar with them, that they have started that special weekly discount now on their website. We are almost done with upcoming war games for February 2024, but we have one important thing left to do, which is to give away our $50 store gift certificate to Noble Knight Games. And again, they ship internationally, so you can apply from just pretty much anywhere in the world. You will need to have an account on their channel, but we'll talk about that as we get to the giveaway portion as well. So this giveaway is going to be a little bit different than previous giveaways, and I need to tell a story for about 30 seconds to a minute, so please bear with me as I explain this. One of the things, if you know about YouTube at all in terms of content creation, one of the things that you know is that there are amazing channels out there. And when you're a smaller channel, it's really hard to get eyes on your channel. So there are some incredible channels in this wargaming sphere that, just by the nature of the fact that they haven't hit that 1,000 subscriber mark yet, it's really hard to get attention to the channel. And so one of the things I hope to do with some of these contests is to call attention to some amazing channels in this wargaming sphere and bring a little bit more attention to them, because I think you as viewers will enjoy that, and it certainly can really hopefully help the channel maybe just in a little way. So with that in mind, we're going to do a competition. The contest for this one is going to bring us to Pushing Cardboard's channel. Now, Grant is a person who runs Pushing Cardboard. I got a chance to meet him at the San Diego Historical Games Convention and this past November. Got a chance to eat a couple of breakfasts with him. And one of the things that just blew me away with Grant is, one, he's really kind and gentle human being. But the other thing about him is that I put his level of wargaming knowledge up there with Ardwolf. I mean, Ardwolf, I think, was the gold standing of wargaming brain, right? But Grant is right there. He has played tons of games, super articulate. He can analyze a game and talk about a game to great depth. He's got a podcast as well as his YouTube channel, but we're focusing on the YouTube channel. Just an absolute joy to get a chance to meet and interact with him and get a chance to know him at that conference. And he's got a YouTube channel. He makes a lot of videos, about 2 to 3 videos a day. His production, it's a straightforward production format, but when you listen to him talk about games, you'll realize just the depth of knowledge. So I think you'll find a lot of his content really helpful if you're looking for more information on wargames. So with the idea of getting a little attention to Pushing Cardboard's channel, and I think also you as viewers will enjoy spending time on his channel, we're going to go to this one video here on his channel to do the next competition, the next drawing here, which is his Axis Empires Ultimate Edition unboxing. So this is the video here. And to enter the contest, you need to do the following things. First, go to this video. There'll be a link down below in the description. And on this video, watch a little bit, watch some of the video, watch the whole video, anything you'd like that. Leave two things as a comment. The first thing is hashtag blitzed, BLITZED, will be the comment you want to put a hashtag in front of it, just like as I've got it up here. And then say something nice about Grant, his channel, or the video that you've watched. That's all you have to do. You leave one comment. Multiple comments will not count, so you just want to leave one comment along those lines. But hashtag blitz and say something nice about his video, his channel, or Grant, and stuff like that while you're there. And by all means, if you like his content, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to his channel, because he's a great guy and you will always benefit from him sharing knowledge about war games that he's looking at or playing or has played. So that's how you enter this month's drawing. Now you have about 7 to 10 days to enter into that. And then about a week from now, I'm going to come back for about 10 days from now, when I do the channel update for March, we're going to pick the winner. So you want to tune back into that next video, the channel update, to see if you've won. And then I'll give people generally about 7 days to claim that if they are the winner. If they don't, we will double up and do 2 in the month of March for a giveaway. That's it as we get there. So Axis Empire's video on Grant's channel to enter this $50 giveaway. And that brings us to the end. You've frittered away probably a half an hour or more time watching about new and upcoming war games in the general area. If you know some war games that you think I should be looking at, by all means, leave them down in the comments. I would love to hear from you in this video as well. What games intrigued you? What games are interesting to you? What games do you think you might be picking up? What games have you possibly played? Other games in the series and things like that. By all means, please leave a comment down below. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you in another video soon.